Oh, hey guys, cut the reverb. Today, we take a closer look at the do-it-yourself magnetic Speedcube. Hey YouTube Cubers, today we're going to be taking a closer look at the do-it-yourself magnetic Speedcube. I've been getting several questions lately regarding my magnetic Speedcube tutorials. Questions like, will this particular cube work? Is it good putting magnets in it? Or I've got this particular magnet, will it work in this cube? Or how do you arrange the magnets? Or can you use this particular magnet in a stickerless cube? So I thought I'd take a few minutes and address these questions and give a few more pointers when it comes to modifying an existing Speedcube and turning it into a magnetic Speedcube. Oh, first, before we get started, I know I didn't get a good shot of this in the intro video, but take a look at this cool shirt. Yeah, I just love this shirt. I bought this shirt on eBay for under $10. It was $9.97. And when it came in, I'm like, wow, I liked it so much, I immediately bought another one within like a few minutes. The seller's name is Happy Apparel. Like, it's all one word, and they offer this cool shirt in all sizes, like from small up to big sizes, like what I wear. So if you think it's cool, check them out. No, I'm not paid endorsing them, or, I mean, I don't even know this seller, except that it's a cool shirt. And as far as Rubik's, as far as like cubing shirts go, it's the best price shirt I've seen, and it's cool. It's monochromatic, so I kind of like the look of it. Okay, let's get on with the video. Here are some things to consider when selecting a cube to magnetically modify. First is the cube's design. Some cubes are free-flowing and have very little cubey piece friction or drag. These cubes tend to be excellent candidates for magnetic modifications. These would include models or cubes such as the Gans Air, the Valk 3, the Moyu Along V2 is really good, and particularly the Waylong GTS. Cubes that don't have a lot of friction as the face comes around to its resting position. That way the magnet's doing that part of the work, not the cube. Also, cubes that tend to misshape and kind of deform, they tend to do very well with magnets. There are cubes like the Thunderclap V2, for example, that have this cubey piece drag that I'm talking about, that as the face comes to its resting position, you can feel the friction increase, and probably those cubes are not real good candidates for magnets, as it kind of defeats what the magnet is there for. Second would be the cube's material, basically what it's made out of and how it's designed, whether or not it's a stickerless or stickered cube, and whether the plastic is thick or thin, and also whether the plastic is black, non-pigmented, or colored. I found that stickerless cubes tend to increase magnetic pull. In other words, the magnet's strength becomes more obvious with a stickerless cube. A stickered cube is generally made out of black plastic, and the black plastic reduces the magnetic pull force. So an N48 magnet in a stickered cube is going to give you less pull than the same magnet would in a stickerless version of the same cube. So that's a consideration. The plastic itself, whether it's black, non-pigmented, or colored, whether or not it's a stickerless, because those tend to be colored, then the actual thickness of the plastic. Cubes like the Valk 3, they have a very thin gauge plastic, quite a bit thinner than the Waylong GTS, and much thinner than the Along V2. The old school cubes, kind of like the Along V2, benefit from a stronger grade magnet. Each magnet has its strength, so if we have a 4mm by 2mm magnet, each grade has its own strength. An N35 on the weak end of the scale and an N52 on the strongest end of the scale. So a thinner cube will require a weaker magnet. A thicker cube will require a stronger magnet. A black cube will require a stronger magnet. A stickerless colored cube will require a weaker magnet. And also, while I'm talking about the strength, it's very personal. I guess it's a personal preference. I saw a video the other day of a YouTube cuber who used relatively large magnets in his cube, and he liked that. He liked the extreme locking of the face as they came into position, and he liked it. So my feeling is that the magnet should be there, but not the feeling of it should be there, but not overly perceptible. Okay, so just to recap, yeah, the cube's material, whether or not it's stickered or stickerless, whether or not the plastic is thin or thick, whether or not the plastic is black, non-pigmented, or colored, all of those make a difference. Okay, the third consideration, and it kind of dovetails right off of the second one here, because I started talking about magnet design, and that would be the magnet size and grade. Generally, most people seem to be using 4mm by 2mm magnets, the neodymiums. And like I said, those come in several grades ranging from N35 to N52. N48 seems to be the most common as far as that works well in a cube. I've seen some YouTube cubers recommend N35s. I don't. Not as your starting point, not at all. I wouldn't. Yeah, they're cheap. They're like $1.35 for 50 of them, whereas the N48s cost $7 for the same amount. But, you know, why put something in there that's not going to work, or something that's not going to, you're not going to even be able to perceive it, and you're going to end up having to pull it all apart anyway. So that's why I kind of stress in my videos what I find, what magnet seems to work for each cube, because each cube's different. And then again, like I said a minute ago, each person's, we all perceive things differently. Somebody might want a more of a stronger magnetic feel. Other people might want it a little more subtle. So that's just, I'm putting that out there. Another thing to consider is the actual adhesive that you use. I've used everything from 2-ton epoxy to super glue. I found that the plastic generally is very slick in cubes, and so is the plating on the magnets. So getting your adhesive, your glue to adhere can be difficult. These cubes tend to be generally fragile. I saw a video the other day where somebody slapped their magnetic cubicle GTS onto a table, and I'm like, you're not going to do that much longer, and it's going to start rattling. I made the mistake of using a break-in tool after my first prototype, and immediately while I was using it on the GTS, I heard bzzz, and those were a couple of magnets shaking loose. So I'm kind of going back and forth between epoxy and super glue. I think super glue is really good because it seems to adhere to the plastic probably better than the epoxy actually. What I would caution against, I mean, you could do this. I'm not going to. I like to make sure that there is a small bead of glue, super glue or otherwise, under the magnet. But what a person could do would be arrange all the magnets. Say, for instance, in an on a way long GTS, a person could arrange the magnets all in order and then just come along and drop, put a little drop of glue on each magnet and probably get away with it. It would probably seep under it or encapsulate it enough where it would provide a strong enough bond. When I build things, I want them to be permanent, so I actually make sure the glue's under it. So this is just another consideration is the actual method and adhesive that you use. I saw a video the other day and the guy said, oh, it took me 10 minutes to do a cube. That's funny because it took me about 3 hours for mine. The funny thing about super glue is I tend to use a gel type super glue when I'm using it lately. It takes a long time for that stuff to harden, several hours. And I've stressed this in other videos. It really needs to cure. So don't be in a rush with this. Don't put all your magnets in the positions and then put a little drop of glue on them and then say, well, it's been 10 minutes. Now I'm going to start moving it. I saw a comment the other day and a person said, I did as you said, not what I said, but what a particular video said. And he said, as soon as I moved my cubes, my cube, all the magnets came out of place. I could only imagine how terrible that was to happen. It's not fun once you've set this up and cleaned everything up and got ready to glue things and you have a failure like that. So be careful and you know, select the right adhesive and do it properly and make sure that it's dried and hardened before you go on to the next step when you're doing a magnetic modification. Okay, fifth and finally is this cross design that you might find from one manufacturer to another of similarities as far as cube piece design. For instance, an Along V2 has a 3-part corner piece. So does a Volk 3 or a Ganzer. So when you're considering doing a magnetic conversion to these cubes, the procedure that you'll use to place the magnets is identical. These cubes have a 3-part corner piece and a 2-part edge piece. The edge piece, you know, comes apart in halves, and then you match one of those halves up with the third of a corner piece, and you glue that magnetic polarity in, and you repeat it 24 times, and you'll have your cube done. So, you know, essentially doing an Oolong V2, a Volk 3 or a Ganzer, and there's others. I've got a couple of other cubes ordered that I'm anxious to try out that probably have this same design. But there are a lot of designs that are similar. So, and really, if you look at it, it seems to be the Waylong GTS is the unique one that you don't really have to pull the pieces out. You can keep it in its cube-like little skeletal shape and go through it that way. Really, I don't see that one's easier than the other. Actually, gluing the little individual pieces, though it might, you know, take a little more prep time, it's less prone for failure, because you can bump a if you're not careful with the Waylong GTS when you're doing a magnetic modification. If you twist it a certain way, if it's really not locked in and tightened down, you can lose all your magnets and they'll fly everywhere. I've had that happen. My first one wasn't a lot of fun. Okay, so these were just a few little points to consider when doing this. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm sorry that this video ran on much longer than I thought it would. I thought I could do it like in 5 minutes, and here it is like forever. So sorry about that, but I hope this addresses some questions that people have asked me in comments and stuff. And okay, guys, enjoy yourselves and happy cubing.